Wasabi guys, welcome back to another market video. As always, if you enjoy these videos and you want to see more of them, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it. We are well past 35,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to talk about what in my opinion is the best investment right now in Magic the Gathering. And no, it's not just the reserve list. We're talking about the set Urza Saga, which has a ton of reserve list cards in here, and no doubt it's going to be a factor. There's a lot more to a set than simply having cards on the reserve list. You can tell that just by looking at sets like Ice Age, Alliances, Mirage. You can have reserved list cards. It's not going to make the set overwhelmingly more expensive. Urza Saga is a unique set because it has all the signs of a set that will potentially match even older ones, even more valuable sets on average, like Arabian Nights, Antiquities, and Legends. You get iconic cards in this set, you get highly sought after cards for Legacy, Vintage even, and especially Commander, and you have the right amount of chase cards that will actually help the value for the rest of the set, even non-reserve list rares. And in order to understand what I'm talking about here, we're going to have to compare previous sets. You're looking at the big three from Arabian Nights: Library of Alexandria, Jazam Jinn, and Bazaar Baghdad. All of these have been listed consistently above $4,000 over the past year. It gets a little bit trickier with cards when they become this expensive to get accurate market information, because there are only so many cards that are going to be bought and sold over the internet. So based on condition it also varies, but the average is roughly around 4,000. What this means is, of course, they're iconic cards. They're more so collectible rather than playable, so they have something that I would like to call a premium. To me, at least, how I define it is a card's value outside of its playability. So to a player, a card would have value if they were able to play it in a deck. If it's a really good card, it's going to be more valuable on that alone. The premium is with a specific printing off of rarity because it's on the reserve list. Maybe it's a secret layer special edition version of a card that is more expensive than the cheapest printing for that reason. And that's how we're going to measure this when we eventually talk about Urza Saga, because I want you to keep this in mind, that this has happened before with other sets. It's not so much about the reserve list. I could talk about Gaia's Cradle all day long. It's a great card, but if everything else in the set isn't doing that well, we're just talking about one card then, and it really becomes harder to invest or recommend investing when it's just a one chase card set. But Arabian Nights is not like that at all. The Dark is a set that is closer to being like that because there are only so many good cards in the set. Majority of it's pretty trash, but this is what can happen over time, and we're not too far off. I mean, we're talking what, 1993, and Urza Saga's 98, so that's a 5-year difference. It's not that long. I know there are different circumstances to consider the print numbers, because even though Urza Saga is not overprinted like a lot of sets are today, it still was printed more often than Arabian Nights. But this is what we're going to be adjusting for over time. Jandor Saddlebags is not an amazing card. I mean, there are definitely others that do something like this for even less mana, but as you can see, it's going to be worth more than the cheapest reprint here at 53 cents. And the numbers here are actually because of a recent buyout, which is something we could also talk about. The fact that people are moving on from buying out reserve list rares, because that's just the type of movement you're going to get from original prints. So while I think it's not $100 for either Jandor Saddlebags or Repentant Blacksmith, even if it's just $10, which I think these are definitely both at least 10 to 20, that's still a heck of a premium. We have another old set to talk about, again, one of the oldest ones. Antiquities offers you again a set filled with reserve list rares and big money chase cards like Mishra's Workshop. Candelabra of Tanos is also great in Mishra's Factory, this specific variant of Mishra's Factory, the one with the Winter Wonderland artwork. But I guess we could talk about the value of having lands in a set too. If it's more likely to see universal play, more people are obviously going to want it. And that was the case with Mishra's Workshop. That's the case for Library of Alexandria, Bazaar Baghdad. Let's say if these are the top cards in the set, it's going to have a positive impact on the rest because people are generally going to value a set when looking at its strongest cards. It's just like with your favorite sports teams during the draft. People are more likely to remember a draft year if it has a Super Bowl winning quarterback or 2 or 3 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. It makes sense, right? Versus the draft year which had absolutely no winners and maybe a couple Pro Bowlers. That's the idea. And when you look at, again, with Antiquities, there's a premium. I know Ashnod's Altar is a popular card, but this is a premium worth pointing out because it's been reprinted, and I think it's even made it on the list for that reprint. People aren't having as hard a time finding finding it. However, the original print of this card is $50. So original prints, I mean, we're going back again, 93, 94, where it all began. Just the rarity of finding this specific printing of the card, it's added into the value of the card. And another old set to consider is Legends, because again, you have a land that is the most expensive card in your whole set. And I'm gonna tell you, I had an opportunity back in 2017 to buy a Tabernacle for about $1,200. I did not, because at the time I didn't believe it would be almost $4,000 in 5 years. Looking at the growth of the game up to 2017, it didn't look like it. I don't think anybody really predicted what happened at the beginning of 2021 would happen. But you have 5 separate cards here that are over $1,000. This set is just filled with value, and the premium is even crazier with this one. Mana Drain's original print from Legends is $300, while the most recent reprint from Commander Legends, or at least one of the most recent ones, is around $40 to $50. Nicol Bolas is an iconic card, but it's not a good card. People don't play it nearly as much as they used to, but you can still see the original print from Legends is $180, close to $200. The reprints, of course, are worth pennies because, again, nobody plays with these. There's no value in the card if you're just valuing it by what it's capable of doing in current year Magic the Gathering. So now let's look at Urza Saga's top 4 cards. Based on value, we have Gaia's Cradle at around 1,000. Again, you're going to see these numbers here. They're not exact, of course. Market's always changing. Some of these go up, some of these go down. So around the time of making this video, these are roughly the amounts you can expect to see for each of these. Sarah's Sanctum, $350. Gilded Drake, $300. Yawgmoth's Will, $200. Now I know what you're thinking. Those are still incredibly expensive. So let's go ahead and look at non-reserve list cards that have been reprinted to see if there's any significant premium. We have amazing cards like Argothian Enchantress and Phyrexian Tower, but as you can see, it's about a $13 to $14 difference between these two reprints and their original prints, which means that the set Urza Saga does carry some value. It's not a massive difference, but you are getting value above the reprint. We have other ones like Sneak Attack and Exploration, and while it's not a huge amount, Sneak Attack's original print is still more valuable. Explorations is a bit more valuable. We're just talking about good quality cards that will continue to see play, and I think that's going to be what either makes or breaks the set, because people will want these cards from Urza Saga because they can play with them, but because they are playable in Commander and people want them, they are more likely to continue getting reprinted versus a lot of the non-reserve list cards like Jandor's Saddlebags. So these two saw reprints in Double Masters. I think they're going to get reprinted again and again, but the original prints are actually doing pretty well. And we are starting to see this matter more in the later 90s sets like Urza Saga, and I could talk about Urza's Destiny, Urza's Legacy. I don't think those sets are as good because, again, we have Gaia's Cradle, we have Sarah's Sanctum, we have Tolarian Academy. This set is carried in a way off the power of those lands, just like with Arabian Nights getting carried by 2 out of the top 3 most expensive cards being lands. If we're looking at reserved list cards in general, this set is stacked. There's just a ton to choose from. You have quality reserve list cards, cards that are going to see play in Commander and widely played formats that people care about. Karn Silver Golem and Great Whale are 2 that I think you should pay attention to. But these 2 being around $30 each is a steal. And when I show you the charts at the end of the video, you're going to know exactly why I'm saying that these are steals. But all we have to do for Karn is just look back to Nicol Bolas from Legends. I think Karn Silver Golem is a better card than Nicol Bolas. I think Karn as a character is close to being as iconic, although maybe not as iconic. Anyone who's kept up with the lore at all probably knows Karn. He's not really a background character, he's been quite relevant. So for $30, this version of Karn, the original print of Karn, one of the most important characters and one of the most important storylines in the multiverse, yeah, I think this is a good deal at $30. You're going to see a lot of these cards, a lot of reserve list cards, at a bit of a discount as we're entering a recession. I think this is definitely one of them. We also have cards like Lifeline. I think Lifeline's another one that flies under the radar. I don't think it sees a ton of play, but it's a good card. Being around $40 is still, I think, pretty cheap for what this set is capable of doing in about 5 years. Tolarian Academy is only playable in Vintage, which again, if it's only playable in Vintage, it means most people probably don't want it. However, there is a collectability factor, which means, similarly to Library of Alexandria, Bazaar of Baghdad, if someone can get it for a deal, just understanding the history of the game and how expensive these cards can get, you compare Tolarian Academy to those 2 cards, and it starts to look a lot better at 140. Time Spiral's another big one that's 170. So you spend 6 mana on this, you untap 6 lands, and having everyone draw 7 after shuffling their hand and graveyard into their library is pretty crazy. But then we talk about my personal favorite card from this set. If there's one card that I think has the most potential long term, it's Yawgmoth's Will, and it's already at $200. We have other cards that try to imitate it, but they're never going to come close. So I would say that this is close to being one of those black spells from Legends. You know, Chains of Mephistopheles, The Abyss, Nethervoid. In 5 years, I think Yawgmoth's Will is capable of being where those are right now. First reason why is because it's still reserve list, and oh yeah, it's a better card than all of those. Yeah, that's right, I said it. Yawgmoth's Will is a better card than The Abyss, Chains of Mephistopheles, and Nethervoid. Just what it does can win you the game in a single turn. So for it to be about a fifth of the value, and even less for some of those, I think that's eye-opening. And this all comes back around to how this set is identified. Similar to Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends, when you think of those sets, you likely think of their top cards, and all of their top cards have been lands. The top card for this set is Gaia's Cradle, the second card is Serra's Sanctum, and not too much lower you have Tolarian Academy. Those are all in the same set, and unfortunately these are color specific, so Gaia's Cradle for green decks, Serra's Sanctum for white, and Tolarian Academy for blue, but these were all cards that were capable of being played in a wide variety of decks. So here is my prediction for 2027, and I'm saying 2027 because I'm going to use the past to predict where we're going to be in 5 years. So if we go back in time 5 years to 2017, by the way, that's when I started the channel back in May of 2017, a lot of this will make sense. So my prediction for Gaia's Cradle, I believe Gaia's Cradle will be a $3,000 card in the year 2027. A lot of people may say that's unrealistic, but I'll get just as many people saying that's a very conservative estimate. Serra's Sanctum, I believe, can be a $1,500 card. It's a little bit more restricted based on enchantments versus creatures, which a lot more strategies take advantage of creatures, but still, the land itself is incredibly powerful. Any land that's capable of tapping for multiple, even if it's not an insane number like 9 or 10, tapping for 2 or 3 mana is still well worth it. I think Gilded Drake can be a $1,200 card, and I believe that Yawgmoth's Will be a $1,000 card, 1,000 being where Gaia's Cradle is currently. And no, I'm not just shooting in the dark. Let's look at some charts here to justify my position. Gaia's Cradle right now is a little bit over 1,000, but as you can see going back through all of 2021, it's been holding right around that level. If you look at where I have the marker there, May 29th of 2017, so almost exactly 5 years ago, the average price for Gaia's Cradle was $217. I know the past couple of years have really contributed to that, and just, 2020 alone, it went from being like $300 to $400 to a $600 card, but I believe that sometime in the next 5 years we could see something very similar. 5 years ago, Serra's Sanctum, again, same exact day, May 29th, 2017, around $60. So for it to be around $350, again, market price $328, whatever it is, that's still significant growth. If you were to tell anyone, hey, this card in 5 years is going to be like 5 times the value, you'd probably pick it up in 2017. Gilded Drake, now this one's going to be painful for those of you who never got one, but in 2017, same exact day and everything, this was only around $20. And it's a $300 card, so that sucks if you missed out on that. I think with Yawgmoth's Will, again, you have a very similar price change. Back in 2017, this was only around $32, and it's above $200 now. I think we are in the process of maybe consolidating around new lows, just like with cryptocurrency in the market. You get a lot of people who are jumping ship, a lot of people who are trying to get the most money while they can because they're afraid that they're not going to get it later on. So at the beginning of 2021, this went from around a $300 card to now settling in the low 200s. I believe that Yawgmoth's Will be a $1,000 card in 2027 because in the 5 years from 2017 to 2022, it grew to over 6 times its value. So in order for this prediction to come true, it's just going to have to reach 5 times its current value. Gilded Drake is only going to have to reach 4 times its current value, Serra's Sanctum a little over 4 times its current value, and Gaia's Cradle only 3 times its current value. So considering that these went for even crazier runs in the past 5 years, and the fact that the game is only growing, people are starting to really recognize the value of investing in the reserve list. I think this is actually very conservative. I think if you were to look at Legends and all those cards that are over $1,000 each, what we have here is a repeat of Legends. I really believe that. You have great quality cards. People want to collect these, they want to hold on to them, they want to invest in these. They're competitive, playable, you get the full package here. So if these do well, the rest of the set's going to do well. There's going to be a premium on the non-reserve list rares, and when that happens, you're going to see that investing in a set that maybe isn't as old as 1993 or 4, you're getting a higher percentage return on your investments, and that's why I believe Urza Saga is the best set to invest in right now. If you're just looking to start out right now, you have a lot of potential here, and if you're watching in 2027, let me know about it in the comments section below. As always, if you appreciate these videos, please do subscribe to the channel. Commander Void here signing off. I will see you all next time.